Welcome to the first Wednesdays at BGC. We gather every week, Wednesday at 6 p.m., except next week. Sorry, I failed you. And this is part of the way that we build our research community. So the first question I have is, how many of you are coming to BGC for the first time? Raise your hands high. Oh, that makes me really happy. Okay, let me explain where you are. Bard Graduate Center is a research institute that's dedicated to the study of the cultural histories of the material world. And we do that, we have a gallery down the street, and every semester we devise, we realize and introduce a new exhibition that gives us an embodied experience of studying objects. Over here, this is our academic building. But first, actually, before I leave the gallery, are there any gallery staff here today? Please raise your hand. There you go. That's some of the people here, or person. In this building, this is our academic building. This is where we have our degree granting programs. Students, please raise your hand. And our incredible faculty, please raise your hand. I just want everyone to have a sense of who's here in this room. And visitors who have been here before. Yeah, exactly. Visitors who have been here before, raise your hand. Thank you. Also, this building is where we house our research fellows, where we have a new group of research fellows every semester. Research fellows, please raise your hand. Thank you so much. So this is BGC. And as I mentioned, one of the things that we do is we come here to study objects, whether that is in that academic context, whether that's in the gallery, or with our incredible study collection. And we're studying objects in different contexts, and we're acutely aware that that exercise is alive tonight. Here we are on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We're on the unceded territory Lenape-Hoking. We're down the street from Seneca Village, which was a 19th century community of Black landowners that was destroyed in the creation of Central Park. But we think about a lot of different contexts that these objects fall in their lives. And River, who is our guest tonight, will ask often, how did you get here? And why are you here? And that's kind of my question for you all. How did you get here? And why are you here? So this summer, we invited River Ramirez to spend time in the study collection, exploring, curating, and seeing what kinds of stories emerge through research. And they were supported by our incredible library. Librarians, please raise your hand. There we go. And working with Barb in the study collection. Barb, please raise your hand. Thank you. And also you'll meet Ellen Enderle, Ellen right here, who is an incredible scholar who was a BGC graduate, also has a great career as a museum professional, and now has come back for a PhD and will be leading a conversation tonight. So it took all of us to make space for River to come here and show us a way of engaging with objects. And we're really fortunate because I will say I have known River for some time, and it is a treat every time you get to hear how they engage with ideas, every time you get to hear how they think. River L. Ramirez, so they are a New York City-based artist originally from Miami, Florida, and they work in the medium of comedy, TV, film, writing, visual art, and music. And I just have to include this. They say, with all of that, it's easy to forget that they're just a little furby with a knife. And their work explores magic, collective consciousness, and liberation through play. They've been written about in New York Times, Forbes, Art in America, SSENSE with 3 S's, and GQ. And they just released an EP called Giving. And you can find them, if you can, go home and watch the Julio Torres film Problemista. And River has one of the most incredible scenes in it. So I encourage you. And also Fantasmas, which is out on HBO. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. I didn't leave anything out except one last thing, which is please join me in welcoming River Ramirez.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Great. So nice to be here. Thank you, everyone. Wait, my book bag is in the middle of my legs. Okay, so welcome to Playtime with me. That's me peeking out through. And I know I'm a very intuitive person, so I just want to say that off the top. And I know what you're thinking. Who the is what? What? Wait, what? Who's that? Which is understandable. We just met. I am River. You heard about me earlier. I do many things, but ultimately, what I'm concerned with is feel. I follow feeling, and that's what I do my whole life. I don't know how I got here. There's like no logical explanation other than that. I just feel my way through life. And I was invited here by Andrew and Bard to essentially around and find out. So here's me around in your library. I was having so much fun. And then here's me reading, but standing up. Although there were a lot of chairs available during the summer because none of you were there. And that was really awesome. I got to be kind of like a Phantom of the Opera of Bart. It was so fun, and I'm so sad you came back. It was so quiet and nice, and now there's like a lot of voices. So anyway, I was thinking a lot, and I was mostly thinking like, well, I never did a graduate degree. I didn't have enough money, and I was like, let me just work in my life. So I really feel like, oh, I want to impress these people. You know, I want to do a really good job. I want them to like me. Maybe somebody will give me a job. And I was like, well, how do I impress smart people? It's a big question on my mind when I was reading Standing Up. And I was like, oh, okay, wait, there's one thing I have that I could really use, identity. I'm like, oh, that, I'll use it. It's like my capital. Um, and I'm like, oh, I'll Kamala you. You know what I mean? Like, I'll force you to like me. Like, you'll have to vote for me. No matter what. And I'm gonna make sure you'll feel bad if you don't. And so, with manipulation in mind, I decided to start my search for objects in the study collection based on my actual 23andMe. This is where I started. Okay. I'm like, all right, let's go, let's do that. So here's first slide. I'm gonna start here because I wanted to show you that before you see all the other stuff I'm composed of, I need you to think of me as 1/3 of a white guy. Like, if you just keep, it's real, if you, like, keep that with you. And if you have like any negative bias towards the other parts of me, just go back to this and at least hear some of my voice with authority and poise, okay? And that's what I should sound like to you. So, found that out. I was like, well, yeah, okay, I kind of knew that. Pretty sick. And then I'm also like a third African. And this is something I really loved from the 23andMe, which was just kind of like a little glossing over the slave trade and basically being like, but it was like so cute. Like, before that, it was like Williamsburg, you know, and I really love that. 23andMe. I'm also Indigenous American, Puerto Rican, and Peruvian. And again, little nice gloss over any colonization at all. And you know, there's nothing really funny here. But here, so I put these together, and I'm like, okay, I guess my lineage is basically like that. Um, if all these people got together, that's me. And so I picked these objects. Barb helped me pick out some of the objects. So I got, I don't have a mic for these, but I got, so these are some bells from Ghana here. This is a sling from the Nazca people in Peru. And this is a Puerto Rican doll. So the bells, I found those bells on Amazon too. So I just want to say that. I was like, what's more information? And they're literally on Amazon. So somebody might have tricked you guys and given you stuff from Amazon. The Puerto Rican doll, I sent a text to my mom being like, do you know anything about this? Because my mom's the one who's Puerto Rican. And she was like, ew, that looks like brujeria. So like, witchcraft. She was like, that's probably witchcraft. And I was like, okay, I put it down. And then the Nazca sling, I think it was the funniest because I got to touch one, a different one, and it gave me a rash. And I was like, okay, shut up. You don't want me to touch you. So that was my experience with these objects, and I was kind of surprised, like having them all together. I didn't feel shit. And I was very like all messed up about it. I was like, oh my God, I can't use my identity now. Like they're gonna hate me. What do I do? And it just really got to me. And then I was like, well, maybe I don't feel attached to them because I was born in the United States, and like most of my family history, like I had to do a 23andMe, like most of my family history, I don't know. I don't relate to most things from the past. I don't know like beyond my great grandmother that like, oh, your great grandmother went crazy. And I'm like, okay, cool. There's like no other information. And I was like, well, what do I feel like if I'm not, those little drawings I made for you earlier? And I'm like, well, I guess I feel more like this. I would say this says vibes. It says the smell is stunning. And so, yeah, I feel like that. I know what I look like, but inside, I really just feel like a floating thing. And so I decided to move into another direction, and I wondered what would happen if I started picking objects that I was just attracted to, that I was like pulled to. And I thought maybe I could do that with attraction. Now I'm going to do a little sound for this slide. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to show you now the objects that I picked out of attraction that just pulled me. Nice. Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great. So here are some objects you see. I'm gonna talk about them more later, but I'm just gonna raise them up, and we can do a little ooh. Okay, all together. Ready? Ooh.
Ah. Ah. Oh no! Ah! Ah! Ah!
Mmm. Mmm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so here are the objects that I felt were more in line with who I think I am. So we're gonna start out with that little guy. So this is a little guy. He's from a toy circus set, and he really just stood out to me. I was like, what's up with you, man? You're so cool. You're so awesome. And there was just something, it was like, he made me feel really playful. But there was something about him that was like haunted and in charge. So I was investigating this little guy, and I came across, well, I was like, what how can I find out more about you, you know? And I came across the craft revival era where he's from, and it was a movement in which like weavers and crafts makers were fighting to keep making things by hand, um, against like everything becoming machine made at the time. And someone that was extremely influential to this movement, I kept seeing his name in everything I read, was this guy named John Ruskin. I really wanted to put like white guy, but I'm trying not to do those jokes anymore. So he's an anti-capitalist, and he's an art critic and philosopher. And so I keep seeing his name everywhere. And it turns out his philosophies in England were so important and formative for the movement that was also happening in the United States and North Carolina, where this little guy is from. So this little guy was influenced by this big guy, sorry. That's not in the script. By this person's ideas, and I was like, well, what were these ideas about? And I was able to find this little excerpt. Oh my god, is it one of the essays of his that are extremely important to the movement? Is this essay called "The Lamp of Life," and I love how much of a he kind of is about it. I believe the right question to ask, respecting all ornament, is simply this: was it done with enjoyment? Was the carver happy while he was about it? Love that. That's like definitely like a, you know. And then he says, okay, I love this one. And he who would form the creations of his own mind by any other instrument than his own hand would also, if he might, give grinding organs to heaven's angels to make their music easier. Oh my god. There is dreaming enough and earthiness enough and sensuality enough in human existence without our turning the few glorious, glowing moments of it into mechanism. And since our life must at the best be a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away, let it at least appear as a cloud in the height of heaven, out as the thick darkness that broods over the blast of the furnace and the rolling of the wheel. Beautiful. So he basically argues it's so important that a maker's hand is in the object, that the spirit of the person is in the material, and that's what objects are about for him. And I deeply relate to this. I'm like, wait, I believe that. That's so weird that I picked up this little guy. And this little guy, there's a whole philosophy behind him that has to do with like what I believe in. So weird. How much weirder can it get? So then I get to this beautiful perfume box. I'm just like, wow, shiny, nice. And I open it up. It's like a art deco-y inside. There's no perfume bottle in it. This is a mirrored Lucian Lilong perfume box. It was created by Lucian Lilong, designed for Lucian Lilong by René Lalique. It's French, mirrored box. I'm just like fascinated by the way it looks. I didn't know who Lucian Lilong was at the time. And I just really love the design. It's like, I felt like it was like, this is something I would have. This is something I would have at home if I could afford it. And so I looked up Lucian Lilong. I'm like, who's Lucian Lilong? Here he is. That's a picture of him. He's French. He was Christian Dior's mentor. And I find out this very interesting detail that during World War II Nazi occupation in France, Lucian Lelong somehow, everyone else dips. Everyone's like, yeah, right, we're leaving. All the couture houses are like, bye, bitch. And he stays and negotiates with them to keep his couture house, saving 12,000 Jewish people that were working under him from going into the work camps, which is crazy. It was also kind of known he was gay, but secretly. So it was a huge risk that he took, but saving so many lives, which was really interesting. I was like, damn, that's sick, man. You're really cool. Um, and then I'm like, okay, what more about this perfume can I learn? Um, and I find out he designs this perfume specifically for Marlene Dietrich. It's called Mon Image, My Image. And I looked on the side of it, and it's still, the lettering is still there, and it's like beautiful Art Deco. And I'm excited to find more about this perfume online, and more about Marlene Dietrich. So he makes Mon Image dedicated to her after working with her on the movie The Scarlet Empress. And I know just a little bit about Marlene Dietrich, but like what I know is that she was queer. She's like a femme fatale figure. She wears men's clothing. She's an amazing actress, but I didn't know what I'd find out next, which was she was also very much against the fascism of World War II. She becomes an American citizen, disavows her German citizenship, helps French and German exiles come to America. She performs live shows to raise money to bring exiled Germans to America, doing all of this before the United States decides to go against Germany. And I'm shocked to get all this information just from being curious about a perfume. Because here are suddenly in front of me, almost like ancestors in a way, two queer cultural figures that fought against fascism with their art. Both of these figures reflecting to me my own standing politically and speaking out against genocide, performing to raise money, fundraising with friends, losing work and opportunities, sticking to what we know is right as humans, fighting for humanity. And to learn about the history of these figures during a time that probably felt as insane as the one we're in made me feel way less alone. And all of this feeling and information in a perfume box was so stunning to like come into. And I so badly wanted to smell it. I was like, what did it smell like? So I worked with some new friends to bring this perfume to life. I asked the internet. I was like, hey, whatever, does anybody like know if there's any perfumers around? And a friend of mine was like, yeah, I know two people. And it was Damon and Megan. And we met and we really bonded and we played with fragrances. I told them what I found out with like such excitement. They came up with what it probably smelled like back in the day. But then we were like, ew, that smells old. And so we modernized it. Considering what we're going through now, our conversations and the origins of this perfume, and we brought it so that you could experience this with us. So we're going to hand out right now the Mon Image fragrance that we made together. And please keep these because you'll need them later. I just start singing. Would you hate it? Oh, don't videotape that. So now, moving on. Yeah, so what are you getting? Yeah, talk about the notes. Come on. Yeah, say what you said.
So it's like a Old Spice.
Like a what?
It's like a Old Spice.
Old Spice? That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I want to hear what does everyone smell?
It's like a cinnamon bubblegum flavor.
Okay, cinnamon bubblegum. Okay. So spicy but like cedar. Okay. There's vetiver in it. There's woods. There's sandalwoods.
What's interesting is that in addition to aroma, there's texture, there is grittiness.
Grittiness.
Like sandiness.
Yeah, there's like there's a film on it. Yeah. Anything else? Does it make you picture anything?
My grandma.
Your grandma?
Yeah.
Damn. Cool grandma.
My first girlfriend, for sure. Her hair, for sure.
Her hair. Wow. Well, yeah, this is the smell we made together. It contains a really interesting group of narcotic fragrances. And it's called like Melissacord or something. This is what I just found out. And they pretty much put it in every perfume. So we tried to we changed the formula a bit so that it wasn't so strong. But it is like this older, like someone said their grandma. It is like an older fragrance. But I thought it was really interesting of like, what do we smell as like why do we smell this as an older fragrance? And it's because it's just a concoction of like a bunch of, not even real herbs, like molecules of these narcotic plants. But I guess maybe our grandmas were having so much fun. So now, moving on to this really insane object, the spiked chimney cleaner. I was attracted to this. I was like, what is this? It's so beautiful, but it's also so scary. It reminds me of a nightmare. And it actually reminds me of a specific nightmare that I had years ago before I more like came out as myself, like non-binary, queer, whatever. I'm like whatever about the terms now, but I had this dream of an object just like this that was like spinning through the air, trying to tear through my face, but really like kind of vibes. And I tried to hide behind, I was having a lucid dream and I tried to hide behind my partner at the time. And I was like, oh great, I'm safe right here. But it like burrowed through my partner and still destroyed my face. And I remember feeling like so unsafe and like also so fascinated with like, why did my mind just do that to me in this nightmare? And then to like see it here, I was like, there's no way this is real. And also, why am I attracted to it? And what was it? And it looked like nothing I had seen before, but still so familiar. It was like It's like a very surreal dream nightmare object. And so I was like, all right, chimney cleaner, what can we find out? I go on Google. This is what I see. Lots of this. I love the woman up there with the hat on. I'm like, that's pretty cool. But a lot of these images, when you look up just the chimney brush, it's loads of kids, like loads of kids that would have worked in these positions, like the chimney sweeps, which at first sight is like, oh my god, LOL, cute. But then you're like, wait, that's bad, right? And I want to say I didn't want to go there because like all of my work is really dark, and I was like, we can't, like, just give it a rest. We can't talk about chimney sweeps. That's so sad. Maybe I can like keep it light. I was like talking to God. I was like, please don't make me do that. So I went to Poly Librarian to. I said this to. I was like, I really don't want to go there, and I was like, please help me find other information. Maybe somebody knows something that I don't, and then I want to share this like email where Polly tells me basically no, but there's a lead, and it's someone else who did this project. And I think the funniest part of this email is this a possible lead section. However, after consulting a number of currently practicing professional chimney sweepers, the only response with it was that they had never seen anything like it and could not venture a guess as to its function in their trade. Likewise, an internet search of chimney brushes yielded no such design. And I was like, damn, I'm gonna have to talk about kids. So I went back to it and like was like holding it and like just seeing what it did to my body, and I was like, wow, I'm feeling like in pain, more in pain than usual. Why is this doing this to me? And I was like, okay, let's go into the childhood aspect of this. This is obviously touching on that. This is what it's bringing up. And I thought about like, what is this object brought up for me? Like, what is childhood and who gets to have a safe one? When so much of our own histories in this room, even my own, weren't fully safe. And who is this child that's often used politically in speeches to make us scared about immigrants entering and harming them, trans rights ruining them, abortion not giving them a chance, when we live in a country that will not ban gun laws to keep children safe? Children aren't safe in their own schools. Children are being subject to war. 40,000 children being used to mine cobalt in Congo. Whose children are we really taking care of, if as far as we can look back in our own lineages? And also like I was like, oh, surely chimney sweeps were just a thing in England. And it's like, no, it's like in the US too, which is so weird. I'm just like, who is this? Then who is the child we're like fighting for? You know, they don't exist. And it was really just, like a dark part in this journey, and also investigating my own darkness. But then it led me back to, well, this is a reason why I like to play, why I like to keep things light as an adult, why I like to, even when things are like so dark and so horrible, remain in the joy and lightness and like possibility, because there's something in play that does that. Like reclaiming a sort of lost innocence is essential to me. And what makes me feel this way the most is cute little things. Which brings me to the next object. Cute little chair. So this is a Tonette style miniature chair. And I love little chairs. I saw it and I was like, so cute. oh my god. And I didn't think a lot about when I picked it. I really just I was like, yes, I love this. And then I started like playing with it and like putting it on its side, and then I put it upside down, and I kept putting it upside down. And I was like, this kind of reminds me of the chair from the Poltergeist. Have you seen the Poltergeist? It's like one of my favorite horror movies. It's so scary, but like the chair, yeah, it looked just like the chair from the Poltergeist. And I was like, this isn't the design from that chair. And I asked Barb, I was like, does it look like? And Barb was like, I haven't seen that in a while. And I was like, okay, yeah. So then Barb left the building, and I look it up on my computer, and it turns out it is the chair from the Poltergeist, my favorite scene. The Tonet bent wood chair, a miniature version. I just picked it. But I think what makes it weirder is that I have a tattoo of this chair on my arm. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but here's the scene from the Poltergeist that I love, that's like totally been etched in my mind. And what I love about this chair is that or the scene specifically, if you haven't seen it, it's like one shot done in like 7 seconds, that the crew only had 7 seconds to put all those chairs up like that. But basically they're down, and then the mom's like, have you been seeing the weird TV people? And the girl's like, no. And then it turns back, and all the chairs have like, there's like a slight shift you hear, and then all the chairs are suddenly up, and I just feel like it's like the definition of horror. And I love the use of the ordinary and the supernatural, and the feeling that something's wrong, but I can't put my finger on it. And it reminds me of like the type of horror. I love horror, but I'm always looking out for it in like daily life, like a slow haunting, like the way that social life changes, the way behavior changes, the way denial becomes a part of our lives. Like true horror is like menacingly slow, and it's like in the everyday. And also, I just want to say this family doesn't move after that happens. They're like, let's stay. And horrible stuff happens to them. But I feel like this is like how we act as humans, right? Like much of what we see that's out of the ordinary, if people do it in like little increments, our common sense really can't make sense of it. We're like, is that happening? No, it must not be. But like danger and horror requires us to call it out or like pick up on it. And this scene really communicates that strange behavior towards that which causes terror. And again, it's on my arm. I think to go from like, little guy and be like, oh, these are like kind of similar to my values, to like what I think about spirit, and then to go to the mirrored Lucian Long perfume box and be like, okay, wait, these people are in line. The people associated with this like are in line with my values. This is getting a little stranger. And then the spike chimney thing, which is like, okay, you're touching on my hurt. You're touching on like this thing I still am processing, of like exploitation and childhood. And then to have this chair literally be on me, I was like, well, there's something else happening here, that feels really deeper than the material itself. And I was like, maybe I'm a very spiritual person, so I'm like, maybe it's spiritual, but also it feels like more it's so I don't know what to call it, but it's so feels like very I'm very connected to them in a way that feels more like aligned or practical, not very woo woo at all. Um, but I do like woo woo. But anyway, the so that's where I'm getting to, and then I have this final object, which is this X photo that I a little wrestled with just because of I was raised Christian, so I'm a little bit like whenever Jesus comes up, I'm like no, but I've been making peace, with Jay, um, the J. But I think this one was really interesting because I brought it out, I put it back, I kept bringing it out. I was like, what is this about? And I really love the detail. Like I took these details from the sites. I love that it says Latin American, probably Mexican, because I feel like that's what people might think about me. So yeah, I think as like a description for an object, I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. It's from the 20th century. It's made on paint board, metal, and a tin, and has some wire holding it up. I think what was really interesting about this one, like I sat with it for a while, and then I noticed there are these little lines in it, and it felt like, oh, was this supposed to be? Someone was supposed to like fill this out or something. Like, what is it doing here? Why wasn't it filled out? And I looked up more about what ex votos are, and they're usually um like a used to give gratitude to a saint or deity, or whatever you feel is a higher power. In this case, someone painted it like for Jesus, and maybe it was someone sick because there's a bed or something. But you basically give gratitude to the saint for either a miracle that happened, or I've also read it can be like a wish that you have. I thought that was like really beautiful, but also so sad that it was empty. And there's a book here edited by Itai Weinreb, who works here. And I found this beautiful little passage in it. I'm going to read the end. So, ex votos are objects produced with specific functions in mind. Once they perform this duty, they might be said to become obsolete. Because these objects were often commissioned or made by individuals for an intervention at a specific temporal juncture, in many cases they were not intended to have eternal potency. So I just wanted to read that part because for me, that means that the ex voto needs to fulfill its duty, and maybe we're here at the same time because it needs to be filled. So I thought maybe we can do that together because I don't know. For me, handwriting is very powerful, and also gratitude is very powerful in like spiritual world, spiritual communities. It's one of the biggest gifts as a human being that you can give to another or to the earth or to spirit. So you have all little pencils, and you have the little smelly thing. So if you can, we're going to take a moment. You're going to think of a need or a gratitude. Think of something that might be your higher power. Maybe it's God, maybe it's Buddha, maybe it's Jigglypuff. It can be whatever you want. And take a moment to write down your ex voto need or gratitude. And this will just be for you. I'm just going to add, I saw one. I was looking up a bunch of them and I saw one that was like a guy thanking a saint for that one time when he was 17, where he was able to afford to have sex with a really hot woman. So it could be anything. And then when you're done, you can just fold it and put it in your pocket. Or your purse or whatever. Just leave it there. Alright. Conclusions. This was a really wonderful journey to go on. I came in feeling so disconnected. I was like, what am I going to do? From the objects, from myself, from my own identity. But now I'm leaving so connected. Not only to the materials, but to the people that helped me search, to a community, students, histories, books I didn't know about, new friends, and also to spirit. And to see that these objects I just so happened to use were somehow communicating similar values to those that which I carry, more so than the one supposedly representing me via identity. It made me think of attraction, but also intuition, and what pulls us into objects and each other. And if we listen deeply, with joy and play and wonder and excitement, what possibilities for connections does that create? Perhaps material objects are not only physical, material, but representations of the values of the time, silently communicating via their presence, a direct line to the ancestors or lineages or philosophies in which we can be tied to, maybe which we need to be tied to survive. And in our attraction to certain objects, we can explore the spiritual dimension, the invisible, much like smell or thought. We can explore feeling deeply, and that which constitutes what we're really made of, which is more than the physical. It's the immaterial, our values, our views, and our collective spirit. And I give you all such gratitude for allowing me to explore this at your school. I'm very grateful to Andrew, Barb, Polly, everyone who's helped me along the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, River. Is this on? Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Thank you so much, River.
Hey.
Hi, hello. Thank you for coming to BGC. Thank you for doing your research, and thank you for sharing your research and your experience with everyone. I'm sure that it resonated with a lot of people in the room here tonight and gave us the opportunity to think about the objects that we looked at in a different way. So thank you very much. I'm Ellen. I'm a PhD student here. I often I often study jewelry and precious stones, and my recent research has focused more on. Did it get louder? Actually,
It's good though. Okay. It's good.
It's good. We're good. Okay. It's focused on amulets, late antique and medieval, and I've thought a lot about the agency of objects and the activity of objects, and hearing about what you were researching and talking about this evening, I became very, very interested. So I have a couple questions for you. The first one, I kind of want to unpack a little bit about the metaphysics of objects and the potential that objects hold. So cultural theorist Walter Benjamin argued that even the most perfect reproduction of a work of art is lacking in one element: its presence in time and space, its unique existence at the place where it happens to be, and that reproduction, in his theory, reproduction like the chair, some of the reproducible objects here tonight, reproduction in his theory undermines or even abolishes the aura of an object, or with a spiritual object, such as a retablo, maybe the cult value, the religious value of it. What does the concept of the aura, specifically the aura of objects, mean to you? And has that meaning changed over the past few weeks and in relation to these objects?
Before I thought it was something you know, from the aura photos, like something you could just see or like feel automatically. But I think from the objects, but also my own life, which has been to like through health issues to listen to my body more, but also listening to like where my body doesn't want to be or where it does want to be, and how that helps me heal personally. I feel like that that journey, and then the journey with these objects, which was more like, what if I trust what I like? What if I'm like naturally pulled? It makes me feel like, I don't know, it's more like threads than just you giving out a thing. It's like there are um thread like you're the more you can listen deeply with your whole body, the more you can pick up on shared threads between you and either another person or you and an object. Like I really never thought of objects as like containing this kind of information. Like I was really freaked out, I would say, by I was like, what the fuck? So it yeah, I think of people like that because I perform a lot. Just like, oh, there's a shared field that you can like pick up on things, and that is what a performer can do. But now I'm like, oh, I guess there's this connection like with every single thing in this plane. So that's what I think about aura now. I don't know.
You sounds like you know. That was a great answer. Thank you. The next question that I have is about miniaturization. So I noticed that a lot of the objects that you were attracted to and interested in are quite small. This we discussed a little bit. It's probably life size. We haven't completely figured out the use for that.
Yeah, I guess
This spiky chimney attachment. This is life size, but these two, for example, and in a way, even the retable is taking ideas and bringing it down to a very personalized, intimate size, kind of manageable one-on-one closeness. So I wanted to ask about miniaturization and what you thought about that. I have another quote inspired by what you were doing. I came across an article by Professor of Ancient History and Classical Archaeology Lynn Foxhall, who said of miniatures, miniatures are entangled with many aspects of life, death, the supernatural, and in some cases weaving them together. They serve worship, play, ornamentation, learning, socialization, and social engagement. You're making me laugh. Social engagement and thought experiment. Undoubtedly, they were entangled in ways that are now lost to us. But the widespread urge to make the world in miniature, that changing of scale, opens things up to make pathways for people to reimagine the world. That got me thinking about what you're working on. And then I took a look into a book that I have on my bookshelf, On Longing by Susan Stewart, which is maybe some of you have read, poet, critic, and translator. And Stewart discusses miniaturization and the miniature kind of in relation to creation. And so divinity, but human creation. So bringing it down to sort of like an anthropocentric universe kind of microcosm flea circus creation, because everything is always going to be to scale to the human body and to the world we live in, and that's how we create the miniature. And Stewart also mentioned that the toy specifically is an embodiment of fiction and a device for fantasy, a beginning point for narrative and opening an interior world, which I found really, really interesting with your presentation this evening. And then further goes on to say a toy can manipulate, and can be used to experiment and try out. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are on, why you gravitated to miniatures, what drew you to these types of objects, and just why the miniature, why the little cute guys.
I love all of those quotes. I like that. I like the aspect of it where we can reimagine our reality. I mean, I've always thought of myself like a doll a bit. Like I used to really relate to like Raggedy Ann. I don't know why. But I like how do I say this without I'm a little bit crazy, just so you know, in that I don't think a regular way. But I really do think that we are co-creators of our reality, and that you need to play with possibility even when things feel extremely impossible. And that there's something, I think, very attached to, I don't know, like almost like going so deeply inside that you touch a circuit to the possibility of change in your external world. I feel that with like art making, but I do feel that with just like living in general, or how it's been for my life. Like it started out as a survival tactic, and now is like, oh, I guess there's like some reality with this like kind of insane dreaming or fantasy world that I'm constantly in. And yeah, maybe these objects help me in that way, or miniatures feel like familiar because I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing something together. Like I can play as like the person in charge when I know, there's nothing to hold on to actually. But just with ideas.
Yeah.
Like we are like feel like we can be the god of our ideas.
That sounds very much aligned with what these people were thinking too. Thank you. That was really interesting. What was the next thing I was going to say? Yeah, and I also learned in the Foxhall, reading that the miniature goes back to the Paleolithic era. That this is not like you're not alone in this. It's been used in votive offerings such as this, and funerary burials, and this need to imagine and to kind of have some sense of control, and it's a very human need. And I find your interest in the miniatures here very interesting.
And they're so cute.
They're also very cute.
Ultimately, that's
this
it.
one, yeah. And then the ordinariness of this one as well is just the poltergeist scene. We'll have to talk about that poltergeist scene, but I
love
did
it so much. What era did you say? Like, was it like when Neanderthals were around?
Do we have a ancient historian?
They were like
firm?
What is it?
Anyone?
After.
Okay, thank
so
you.
Who was that? Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Meredith.
What was that?
Just my anecdote just opened up. Okay, so we're on the same page.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Like, it would have been cool to picture them playing with dolls. Okay, but
They did. They made little figurines, and probably played with toys too. Yeah. So I thought it might be a good time to open it up to the audience. Do you want to take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
So we have so many different research disciplines in here tonight, and different just walks of life and backgrounds. So I wanted to ask if there were any other frameworks or vocabularies that anyone wanted to offer for thinking about the auratic, the spiritual, the emotional, and the social value and social reinterpretation of values, presence of some of these objects that you might want to share, or even just share something that surprised you or inspired you. So if anyone has anything they'd like to ask or share, please feel free.
Hi, I have no expertise. I'm just a visitor. who's never been here before. But I'm curious about. I was curious to hear about something you didn't talk about, which is your relationship to possession or desire in your interaction with these objects. And I imagine it's nice to find things that you like and are drawn to, but it also comes with the pitfall of wanting something. And if you felt at all like you wanted to possess them, or if that was something that you had to navigate and work through and then relinquish because you can't have them, or if you have a secure attachment to them. But yeah, just how possession and desire might have come up. I know they might have for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Well, I've worked on that a lot. I'm a Buddhist myself, so I'm very trying to be non-attachment. But I do wish I had them. I wish they were like in my home, but yeah, but I kept getting reminded by Barb. They're on loan, and I was like, okay. Yeah, I mean, I have an appreciation for them over there. I think they just like together they represent something for me, and that I'm like, I can take that image and bring it with me, or that feeling and bring it with me everywhere. I'm like, that what I possess, or like what I can not possess, but what I can take from it will stay with me forever. It's more of a feeling that they helped elicit, which is also how we should act with people. Thanks for the question.
Hi, thank you. That was really, really nice. One thing that you were talking briefly about, sort of your sensation of your body in relation to these objects, and it made me think about some of the. I mean, there are more academic discussions of like the object as a prosthesis, almost like you feel it like it's an extension of yourself, or and the alternative, you hold it and it's almost like a invasive body. You don't want that. And I was wondering if you felt that relationship with any of these objects. And it also made me think of like tweets I've seen where it's like you take a basket and you put it on your hip and suddenly you're like Anne of Green Gables, or like, or like somehow just holding an object and like interacting with it suddenly makes you want to take on a transformation of yourself. Like you, for a brief moment, are like, I'm someone different, and you're like holding yourself differently. And the same thing if you, in interacting with some of these objects, had that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing with them a lot actually, so I have a lot of, but I didn't have time to show you those videos, but kind of disrespectfully playing with them. But I guess I feel like, what do I feel like with them? They were less physical. It was less of a physical relationship. It was like emotional when I held them. So with each object I felt different things. Like I would sit with them for some period of time. The one that was most weird was the chimney brush that made me feel like I was in pain. And I was really trying to be like, don't associate how you normally would. Like just hold it for a while and see what comes up. I think that one and how it kept leading to like childhood exploitation stuff was like really weird in terms of like how it made me feel. The Moni Maj perfume, I mean, that one made me feel like I was in the 1900s or something. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm there and I'm purchasing this and this is mine. That one I felt more attached to. And then the chair, I mean, it's part of me. I think that one was like the strangest one that I can't really make sense of. Yeah, but it took me to I think they all like gave me images more than like made me act a different way. Yeah, but thank you for asking.
That was really incredible. Thank you so much. I have a question about the perfume. I know that scent can be really bound up in memory and associations we have with the past, people we've loved, and then also the idea of personal fragrance can have a lot to do with beauty expression and gender expression and all of those ideas. So I'm really curious about the transformation you mentioned from the original potential formula of the vintage form and sort of the idea of modernizing it. And I was curious about your impressions of that process and the difference between the two of them, and if that modern version had any of sort of you and your own impulses about scent in it, and basically as well, like what it brought out for you.
Great question. Thank you for that. Well, we actually made another perfume that has less of that old smell. But I wanted to keep it close to what it was, but just like bring it to the future. Just imagining almost like making a time traveling with the scent that it was, and like bringing it just a little closer to here. So we used like there's a really great scent called Cetilox that's like a molecule that's in like a lot of perfumes, colognes now that we have. I think you can find them in a lot in like Le Labo stuff. You know Le Labo.
Yeah.
You all know Le Labo. So it has like a more modern smell in that way. But yeah, I think what was interesting was like making space for the past. Where I'm like, I don't know if I would fully wear this, or like maybe I would. It also has to sit, like it's very fresh. It's from like a few days ago. They mixed it, but perfumes have to sit for at least like 30 to 60 days. So it's not even at the like it's not even like fully mixed yet. This is just like the beginning of those two timelines weaving. But yeah, I forget what the like would I wear this, was it? Or I would push it even more. I think I would push it to another like level. I'm gonna still work with these perfumers, and we're gonna keep working on scents because it was just so fun to try to be like, how do we push the past to the present? Thanks for your question.
I really appreciate how much of your own emotional embodied journey you included in your performance, your presentation. Like just noting kind of some of the expectations that you had around types of feelings, like wanting to like connect with your lineages in this way from your ancestry 23andMe thing. And then kind of the complicated emotions that I'm sure ensued after that, and like moving on from that, and also naming being in this space and wanting to, the feeling of like wanting to impress people. And I really appreciated that you included all of that in your journey for us. And I'm curious if you could talk about how it felt to include all of that in your journey, if that was like natural, or you had to, it was important and valued for you to put it in there.
Yeah, I was talking to Andrew, helped me a lot with this. You're on the ground, crawling on the ground. What the and Andrew helped me a lot, and so I was just like running ideas through Andrew. I was just telling him what was going on, and he was like, you should include that. I think that's great. So then it all just became about bringing you into the journey more than trying to find things that no one's ever found before about these objects, because I'm like, I don't have time for that. I actually had way more objects, and I had to take them away because there was just no time. I'm like, I don't actually could go further into each one of these, which I think, yeah, we had to whittle down, but I loved that aspect of each of them. Like, oh, you could do this like forever, and you can have conversations with people about it forever. And yeah, I think for me, it's important as a performer to let people in a little bit, even if it's like joking or whatever, but just about like what's going on in my head before we do the thing you're all experts in, you know? Because I'm like, I'm an expert in like being silly, um, and like feeling, you know? So I think that's what it was rooted in for me. Glad you liked it and you didn't roast me about it.
Well, actually, I have the unfortunate responsibility of saying, please join me in thanking Ramirez and Ellen Enderle.